I ran up a check, I might do it again. Enemies close, had me thinking they're friends. 10 toes down, I'll be free until the end. Crib outside the city, I don't feel safe in my hands. Took so many years, I'm just waiting for the wins. I'm in debt to no one but the one who took my sins. I do it for real, there's no reason to pretend. If I do it once, I do it again. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, bankroll, euro, peso, add it up, I'm just doing me, everything is on me, oh you matter what. Add it up, told her if it's all me, everything is on me, gon' back it up. Matter what, told you I'ma do me, why you hating on me, it's not adding up. I do roll like a Mack truck, country heart, I might cop a farm and go act up. Lot of scars, I was cold-hearted, now I'm back up. Keep it real, I do this once a month, I don't rap much. I just take the money and go stack up.
Hey, 8 to 8 family, how y'all doing? This is Fred Green, and I got brother Darcy Savage with me, and we just want to thank you for coming out today and speaking with us and viewing us today. I want to give out a shout out to AB and also Julius Hall for being a brainchild of 8 to 8, where we seek to try to empower, uplift, edify, and elevate. Also, my riders, my co-riders, that's usually on Julius Campbell and also Marie Jones, who I'm filling in for today. So I wanted to make sure that I give them a shout out. So what it do, ink to ink. So today's podcast is talking about finding a way out of no way. So we got a brother, man, that's going to kind of give us a little synopsis of how to find a way out of no way, brother Darcy Savage. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed and highly favored, and I don't take that lightly.
Okay. So I know that the viewing audience is going to be inspired as you let them know how that blessing translate into blessings, and how we share, because I often say we perish for lack of knowledge, right? So we gonna get some good game, get laced with some good game, get laced with some good information tonight, and that way we can be able to share, because iron sharpen iron. What you say, brother Savage?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, a little bit about me. I was born in Paterson, New Jersey, and from an early age, man, I've been dealing with different issues in my life. I grew up without a dad. I watched my mom get beat in that situation. I was only 2 years old. It's the earliest memory that I have of life. I watched my mom get beat. I went into an epileptic seizure at the time when she got beat. And I remember because she was pregnant with my little brother. He's only 2 years and 8 months younger than me. And as I went into the seizure, my grandfather and grandmother had already made it to the house. And I remember looking down at them, put me into the station wagon. If you can get a glimpse of what I'm saying, I was looking from above down at them, put me into a station wagon. And my grandmother later on in life, I remember her telling me about that story, about that day. She said, I prayed to God, just take me instead. And my grandmother stayed out there near you in the Richmond Hill area. And I'm glad I got to share that story with her before she passed, because I remember that and I never told anybody. But one of that hit me early on was that episode with seizures. When I would get very angry, I would fall into those episodes with seizures. And it happened another time in my life. And then it began to happen frequently. I got mad one time, blacked out, hit somebody a couple times. I don't even remember hitting him. Broke his jaw and broke his collarbone. I don't remember the man. And, everybody thought I was being bad or being this or being that. And really, I had something that was jumping on me from a young age.
Yeah.
And God began to deal with me at age as well, man. I went through this struggle, went through that struggle, ended up getting kidnapped at 11 years old. And that's a whole nother story in itself. I was at the time living in Baltimore, Maryland, and I went and played played football. And it was the first time that I had ever been congratulated by a man in my life, because my coach saw the way I ran like Barry Sanders. And he yelled at me. He said, man, you better make sure they give you that ball every time. And that was powerful for me, because that's the first time that some side of my family who was a man had ever really gave me that validation as a man like that. And so that was a powerful, I will never forget that day, because it was a powerful.
That's really important. And I don't mean to cut you off. I want to kind of chime in on that. And I want to touch on that because, and I know you're going to touch on your entrepreneurship and, you know, how you go back into prisons later on. But
yes, sir.
I go back into prisons right now, and we offer certification through Savannah Technical College to individuals. And for some of those individuals, they say that's the first time they ever got any, or someone I might tell them I'm proud of you. Or they may get an achievement, and this is their first time ever getting an accolade or achievement or a certification, and I could see what it does. I could see the installation of hope that it gives them. So tell us a little bit about your affiliation with Incarceration.
Oh, okay, so that's where I'm going to now. All of that happened, and I ended up 17 years old. I had made up by that time. I had made up in my mind that I was going to be a drug dealer. Those things I had saw, and so I got locked up for armed robbery, but I was actually robbing to fund the other side of the business, and I ended up with 12 years at the age of 17. And I had a good girl on my side. I had a praying auntie, and I had a cousin who was deep into the word. And I sat on that bunk and I looked and I read about how the enemy tried to give Jesus all the kingdoms of the world in an instant. And that's when things really began to click on me. I was, like I said, I was locked up. I ended up with 15 years, 12 to serve. I had to do mandatory. It was under that new GDC bill. I forgot which one it was, but I had just got sentenced under that in 1995. And I can't lie, I was everything. They gave me every day they needed to give me at that time. God knew what he was doing when he put me in there and set me down. And in many ways, I see it like a college. I see the time that I served. It's a famous rapper who said, I blame God for my condition. I never give that credibility to the judge, is what he was saying. And so I see my life the same way. I don't look at anything as, okay, the judge did this, or no one can judge me but God. God has the final say so and final authority and final power in my life. So I began to look for this God who they were talking about. Now, at the time, I didn't know this God. Like I said, prior to that, I was dealing with drugs and dealing with some pretty wicked spirits. And, God just began to make himself real to me. And that's what I asked for. I asked for a real knowledge of a real God. I want him on an intimate level. And so I began to pray. I began to seek him. I began to seek him with the same tenacity that I began to seek the other things in my life. You know, I think that what set me apart and what set a few of my brothers apart is that we sought God with that same level of tenacity. Because when I was on the street, I wasn't afraid to die about it. I wasn't afraid to die about it. I wasn't afraid to go either side of the barrel about it. And so when I sought God with that same level of tenacity. And he began to make himself real to me. And he began to get real to me on a personal level, not just a religious level. From the beginning, the Bible says that your young men will dream dreams and your old men will see visions. Well, God began to deal with me about dreams, but the dreams weren't about religious in nature. They were dreams that dealt with me as an individual. They were dreams that dealt with me as a person, who I was in my family, who I was in relation to my brother, who I was in. And so I'm kind of glad I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't know God on that level. I knew God as an intimate, personal partner, the voice that walks in the cool of the day. You know, the voice that's cool. It's a cool voice. It's a voice that walks in the cool of the day. And that's who I got to know. I didn't get to know him with a, not talking bad about no preacher, but I didn't get to know him in I know that the Lord, I didn't know him like that. I knew the Lord that the Bible says talks to every man in his own voice. So I heard God talking to me in my voice. God sounded like at times like he can get more gangster than I got. and he could talk more slick than I got, and he could talk more cool than I could. And that's the voice that resonated with me. And that's what I told the Lord. Lord, I said, Lord, if I talk to anybody, I want to be able to resonate with them on a real level. I can talk gangster with the gangsters. I can talk cool with the cool, and I can talk and it's all real. And I want to be able to talk to them on a real level. I heard somebody say one time, he said that the actors tell lies as if they're telling the truth, and the preachers tell the truth as if they're telling lies. Well, I want to be someone who tells the truth as if it's the truth. You understand? And so that's what I began to do. I ended up at towards the end of my incarceration, I ended up at the halfway house. It was on Ponce de Leon in Atlanta. And God opened some major doors for us. We ended up going and speaking to at-risk youth from there. We were able to do songs and poems. So God just completely busted doors off of that situation. It was off of a dream that God had gave me. And in the dream, God was saying, we were singing a song, if I don't praise the Lord, the rock's going to cry out. And so from that song, God instructed me to go join the choir. And I was looking at the choir, right? And I said, Lord, that old rinky-dink choir. I mean, that's exactly what I said. It was 2 or 3 guys on there that really couldn't sing. You know, I wasn't the greatest singer, but I was like, man, I'm not going to join this old rinky-dink choir. God said, go join that choir. I went and joined that choir, man. And it's like when I came, everybody came with us. Me and another brother came, and we busted doors off of there, man. We were able to go to speak to at-risk youth. People began to get free. People with life sentences who were at the governor's mansion had been there 20, 30 years. Instantly, they were having to rotate the governor's mansion. The governor's mansion in the Georgia Department of Corrections does not rotate. They get lifers there who usually have to stay there for 5, 10, 15 years at times.
Yeah. Man, shout out to Smiley. I don't know if you was down with Smiley or not.
Yes,
Smiley is
I know Smiley.
So you need to get the doors bust open for Smiley. And I'm thinking about when you say that, and I want you to hold that thought right there.
Yes, sir.
But I want to touch on something that you just talked about.
Okay.
You talked about, you know, that intimate relationship that God gave you while you was in the tank. I often classify prison, and I would encourage those that are watching that are locked up or those that are listening who are incarcerated to look at like the book of Jonah. Jonah, yeah. I classify it like a fish experience.
It is.
Remember, it wasn't until Jonah came to, even though it's symbolic about Christ, it wasn't until Jonah came to his senses that he was spit out on dry land. It says as soon as he came to his senses, he was spit out on dry land. But watch this, though. You talked about not wanting to join the choir. God told you to do a specific thing, just like he told Jonah. And when we are disobedient, then he has a way of putting us in that fish experience, right?
He does.
And then when we come to our senses and say, well, we're going to do, because Jonah got spit out in Nineveh where he was supposed to go at in the first place, right? So and I always tell people that look at, you know, freedom is within. It's just not by, when God frees you, you're not bound by any walls. So that's for those of you who are locked up who are listening.
You're not. God is amazing, man. God is amazing. He's dealt with me on a family level. Those were the things that I needed to get right. I learned how to be accountable to people in prison. I learned how to be, you know, for lack of a better word, you butt naked every day. Everybody know your business. She know when that girl done left you. She know when you got that Dear John letter. She know when you they know when you having problems on the phone. They know everything about you. And it's something in that situation that teaches you a certain level of accountability. And that's what I learned there. I learned how to be accountable. I always say some of the best men I know I met in prison, but they were the best men that I knew under certain guidelines. They were the best men I knew under certain conditions. And what God taught me was to put those same conditions within yourself. Learn how to hold yourself accountable, because I knew a lot of people who were the best chess player that I ever met. But when you got out, he reverted back to a junkie. You understand what I'm saying? Or he reverted back to a murderer or whatever he was. You understand what I'm saying? Because he couldn't hold the line with what he was outside of here without that personal accountability. And so I had to learn, Lord, what makes me accountable? What makes me accountable? What's going to hold me? And Jesus had to teach a man that, because it was a man who, going back to the demon possession, who was demon possessed. And he ended up at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And while Jesus was telling everybody else to come follow me, he said, nah, this man, you go over there and you go do that. You got it. You understand what I've been trying to say. You're clothed and at my feet right now. And it's something about that. And I wanted to learn that level of accountability. And that's the level of accountability that I sought, that I think that only someone who's been that deep in the hole will even seek. You know, for me, God wasn't just about getting religious. It wasn't just about getting out of prison early. It was, look, I need this because I'm like that man in the graveyard. I got one foot in there. Wow. I've lost 3 best friends, people that I can honestly say were my best friends at a certain period of time. I had lost them by 30. You know what I'm saying? Like, not people I knew. No, I'm talking about somebody I was with every day. You know what I mean? These people are gone. And so I realized the path that I was walking on, the life, and I realized what was accountable for me. You know, God has spared me for a reason. And so, man, that's what I just really began to walk in, man, and to walk in, the talk in. And but go ahead, what were you gonna say?
No, I'm listening, because I think I think when you talk about that, and you talk about, successful reintegration, you have to be deeply rooted.
Yes.
The take on the responsibilities of society after incarceration. You have to be like that tree that's planted, that's rooted. You have to be able to grow some roots so that you can produce fruit, right? Shoot root downward, produce fruit upward, right?
Yes.
And if you don't have no root that's downward, so if you don't begin to build that, if I don't begin to build that spiritual root, that foundation, then I ain't gonna be able to withstand. You talk about Psalms 1, right? Yeah. So I could be able to withstand some stuff, and I won't be like that tree that will wither away, right? And it's because society start coming at you all kind of ways. So kind of segue into, starting to find a way out of no way. What did that look like? Transitioning today.
So for me, I was at the transitional center. And as I always say, I was terrified of getting out because I was afraid of me.
Yeah.
I know me. Some people, they are scared of this or scared of that. I'm scared of me. I'm gonna do something dumb, and it's not necessarily dumb, but I'm gonna go off my wildest ambitions. If if I think I'm this, then I'm gonna be that. And I think that God can use that. But I was afraid, and I told God I was afraid. I said, Lord, is this real? Do I just have a chain gang religion? Is this just gonna be for a period of time? And in my spirit, I heard God speak to me, and he said, it's a verse that says that he that has begun a good work shall perform it to the day of Christ Jesus. And what he was basically
say that again, Brother Savage. Say that again.
He that has begun a good work in you shall perform it until the day of Christ Jesus. Wow. And that hit me at a different point, man. It was like, it's not about me and what I'm trying to do. It's not about me trying to exert this effort and me trying to be perfect and me trying to do. God got me. God got me. I'm not being built up into this image of a man. I'm not being built up into this. I'm made in the image of God. I already got a stock. I already got a pattern. I already got a father. I already got somebody who's going to hold me down. And that's important for me. I've never had a father. And I finally realized that. I believe I was 29 years old when I finally said, God got me. Now, I had learned the Bible before that, but it's something different when you realize I'm his beloved son in whom he's well pleased. It's from that standpoint that Jesus began to do miracles. It's from that standpoint that all identity is assumed and is blossomed into, because everything deals with your identity. Everything deals with who do you say that I am? Who do you say that I am? Because at that point in time, I was still a real nigga. You understand what I'm saying? At that point in time, I was still so-and-so I was still savvy. Some people called me Savvy Sav. I was still Savvy Sav. I knew the Lord. prayed, baptized, spoke in tongues, and the whole nine, had dreams and visions, but I was still savvy saved. And at that point, I became God's son. I became someone who he was going to hold down. And it's important to realize that I want to say was the turning point for me.
Yeah.
Now, in that turning point, I didn't get out and do everything perfect. I made a lot of mistakes, but it was something of that realization that always drew me back, that always got me out of trouble, that always made a way for me when there was no way. That realization that I am God's beloved son. It's just certain stuff that a son ain't gonna stand for. If you remember when the prodigal son was in a certain situation, he said, how many hired help of my father? You know, he began to acknowledge his father, and instantly he transitioned out of that situation. And for me, that was very important. Now, on the physical side, God taught me about having buildings, having houses that I didn't build, and vineyards that I didn't plant. And so the promised land to the children of Israel was a vineyard. Now in the vineyard, you got a packer, you got a producer, you got a picker, you got a bottler, you got all that. And so God was telling me, look, stop looking for jobs. You need to be looking for businesses. And I'm not saying that you don't get out and get a good job. But what I am saying is that the promised land for you as my son is a business. The promised land for you is not a great apartment. It's a great house. And so my expectations began to change when I saw myself as the son of God. Yeah. The son of God asked for this. And that's where I'm getting to. Everything is about your identity. You know, when your identity is marred, you'll accept certain things. Well, you know, because that's the best that an ex-con could do, or that's the best that so-and-so could do. You know, so everything begins on the spiritual level of identity. It's what you identify with. Before I moved out of Savannah, Georgia, God told me to move to Nashville. I had 4 dreams where God told me to move to Nashville. I knew it was God. And so right before that move, I said, well, I'm going to do like the children of Israel. I'm going to go out and spy the land. So I went out here and I spied out the land. And do you know what happened? I came back with an evil report because I saw nothing in Nashville. I didn't see any black people doing anything prosperous in Nashville. And I think God that did that for a reason, because everybody I saw who was black was like working in fast food. And I was like, Lord, what's going on? Here I am. I done got out. I got a good job. I was working at a spot called Hurdy in Savannah. It's on the pier. It's on the what do you call that? By the boardwalk, you know, when you got one of them little jobs over there by the board,
River Street. River Street.
No, by the longshoremen and stuff. So I went longshoremen, but it pretty good jobs. If you got a Gulfstream job or one of them jobs, you A1 in Savannah. And so I'm sitting here saying, man, I got a good job, and God is telling me to move, pack my wife and 3 kids, and move over here and be a burger flipper. You know what I'm saying? That's going to send me back to the street is what I'm thinking. And so I said, Lord, I don't see no black men in there working in Nashville, working nothing but fast food joints. Man, the answer hit my spirit so quick, it's almost scared me, bro. He said, if you a black man, you're going to get what a black man get. If you my son, you're going to get what my son get.
That's right.
I said, well, what do a son get? He said, a son get what he pray for. Ask of me and I will give to thee. Wow. I prayed for a job from Savannah that I was not qualified for. I got that job from Savannah over more qualified applicants who were white in Nashville.
Wow.
And God has been just blessing me ever since. It
and
all
when
has
when I hear that, Brother Savage, I say it's something that says that, and I can't tell you exactly where it's at, but it says they wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers.
Even as your soul, your identity.
And I heard all 3 of those components in you. I heard you going off to prosper because you come home, you got a job, and you talk about being under, when you was talking earlier, talking about being under the 95 crime bill, right?
Yes.
It wasn't nobody hiring no people coming out of prison. So you talk about that. So you talk about prospering, and then you talk about you got your health and your strength, and you got your courage, right? And then your soul prospering at the same time because you're making that intimate connection with God. You taking and you are allowing yourself to understand your inheritance, per se.
Yes.
Yes. Is that would that be correct?
That's correct. To me, that's the to me, I wish there was a 3-step program, but there's a lot of 3-step programs. There's a lot of hustles that you can do to get on board. But for me, everything failed when I didn't have my identity right. And so to me, that's your soul prospering. That's the backbone for everything. When I got my soul right, when I understood who I was as a person, I'm God's son. It's just certain things that was going to flow my way. And even if I wasn't feeling good, things were still going to flow my way. Like God told me, the son is, you're going to get what a son gets. I'm not saying that I'm not black. I love being black. I love all black. I'm not saying that I'm not a man. I love being a man. I'm not saying I'm not from here or I'm not of this particular age group. I'm just saying that all that is superseded by the fact that I'm the son. Before I'm anything, before I make any identity, I identify myself with the son of God. So, and it's funny, man. A couple of years ago, I got up in arms about the police. I was like, man, they doing this to people. They doing this, and for some reason, 1,000 cops came my way and they all treated me nice. That's not my story. That's not your story. You understand? Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. And as a black man, I'm gonna voice my concern for the sick, the poor, the fatherless, and all that. I'm just saying you got to know that you know that you know that I got a different story in my soul. That regardless of what happens to anybody, as for me and my house. You understand? And so because I share this black skin, I'm going to use that. Because I share this this ex-con tag, I'm going to use that. You understand what I'm saying? This is almost my cloak. Like Jesus came as a male Jew. But inside, he was the son of God. Before he was anything else, before he was from Nazareth, before he was the son of Mary or the son of Joseph, before he was the carpenter or any of that. He was a son. And to me, that's the most imperative thing you got to know. I don't even know where this is coming from right now because I was planning on talking about, but that's what's just growing in me, man, that I had to know that I had to know.
Well, that's a part, what you're talking about is a part of the finding a way out of no way. You know, in order for you to understand who you was, that's the beginning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, right? It said, but fool despise wisdom and instruction. So you begin to start finding your way out, not just by your physical gifts, but by understanding who you are first. And I think that message should resonate with people who are listening. That goes beyond people who are incarcerated. That goes for the everyday person that's listening right out here. Until you find out who you are,
nothing matters.
Nothing matters. That you recognize that you are a child of the Most High, a child of the Creator, and then you walk in that purpose and that destiny, then everything else is what? Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. See, some people just want to get the all things added unto
all things.
See, you can't jump, you can't put the cart before the horse. See, putting the cart before the horse is the all things. But when you say first part is seeking ye first, first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, then all things get added unto you. Exactly. Or you go to James 1, come here, James 1. You go to James 1 where he said you consider it pure joy when you go through driving trials and tribulation, knowing that the testing of your faith working perseverance. So now I got to go through trials, tribulations, then I got to persevere through that, and then it's patience, not complete. We're going to go to a commercial break and we'll come back out and talk a little bit more about finding a way out of no way with Brother Savage.
Yes, sir.
$6:30. All right. So we back. So let's talk. we back. So, brother Sav, we get ready to land this plane, right? So let's get so now you find this job, and so like I start off for me, finding a way out of nowhere was I went back to school and got my master's in social work. But boy, the stuff I had to go through, coming through being, a formerly incarcerated individual, lying on applications for jobs. At one point, I was flipping capes like a cape crusader. I was going to school in the daytime. My family had a van. Me and my partner started landscaping business. I would go and cut grass. We were knocking on doors. Let him drop me off at school. He'll go cut grass, come back and pick me up at the grad school. I take him and put on a landscaping uniform. We'll go cut grass, nighttime fall. We'll go in a restaurant. We were working in a B&D burger. We helped open up the B&D burgers here in Savannah. We'll go flip burgers. And then I use skills from the chain gang on doing floors and cleaning dorms and transition that to, so I'm lacing you with some game if you're listening. If you cleaning dormitories and you doing floor maintenance, that's a transferable skill out here. Because you go in most places, they need their floors done or they need their buildings clean because they can't get no customers. So then I started a cleaning service and I would go after that and clean buildings. So I continuously and am continuously trying to find a way out of no way. But it first started off what you were talking about, Brother Savage, about recognizing who I am, understanding that I have gifts and I have talents. I am not a statistic. I'm not a convict or ex-convict, right? I'm a child of the Most High God. Exactly. And I am somebody of worth. I am somebody of great talents. I may have had misdirected talents, you know what I'm saying? But now I'll be able to turn my poison into medicine, my pain into purpose, my wounds into wisdom. So stop talking about how you started to find a way out of nowhere, because I know you're an entrepreneur. You're going back into the prison, lacing these guys with games, lacing our juveniles, trying to nurture young men instead of repairing broken men, and nurturing young men as well. So lead us into that.
Well, I think one of the first things that had to happen, I love the story of that demon-possessed man. When Jesus talked to him, he said, "What's your name?" He said, "We are legion, for we are many." And inside of that, he was saying that, look, I don't have a personal identity. I'm a part of this group. You see that a lot with gangs. I was a gang member. You see that a lot with people from certain areas. I'm sure right now the people that's in prison, they all got to ride with, if Seaport ride, they got to ride with Seaport. If MacTown ride, they got to ride with MacTown. If Columbus ride, they got, because what it is that evil spirit wants you to lose your individuality. It wants to take away from who you are as an individual. And one of the biggest things that God had to teach me was that I was an individual, that I was a unique person with purpose. And so part of that happened with this move here to Nashville, because I was moving on air with my family. I didn't know nobody, you know what I'm saying? So that was a major move for me. It was one thing to move by myself. I feel like I can make it and get it out the mud anywhere, but I was moving with people who were dependent on me. And so that really took a big leap of faith, and to trust in who God really made me. I think that a lot of times we don't make it out of situations because of our attachments, because we're so connected to the old things we used to be attached to. And one of the things that we had to disattach with, and a lot of people ain't gonna like to hear this, is family. I had to let go, you know what I mean? I had to let go of my mama in certain ways. And she loves me, and we 100 now, because she sees the man that I have become. But I had to disassociate from my mama and my aunties, and my wife had to get away from her mama because she was a major influence in our life, you know what I mean, over her life anyway. And we had to get away from old friends, and we had to disassociate and just begin to realize, and you can do that in the same city, but God chose to put me in a different city. Like Abraham, look, you got to get up out of here, because I had some strong connections, and so when I began to do that, I was then in a plain area. Remember, God sent Abraham out of this wonderful city into a plain area. But one thing about plain old simple areas, you need a flat ground for a plane to take off and land. And so sometimes, you know, when God is going to do a great thing, he just puts you in a flat level ground and says, look around now. What do you see now? Because there ain't nothing there for you to see, but what do you see with your eyes? So I began to envision what I could do. And God gave me a dream about starting a trucking business. And I started that trucking business, man, and took off. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. But I would not have been able to see that from the standpoint where I was at. Everybody around me who was a peer at that point was a drug dealer. In fact, they were still trying to call me back to be continuously be, and they were making some good money doing what they were doing, but they were trying to call me back into that lifestyle, and they couldn't see what I saw. And God instantly just gave me a trucking business, man. It's just been on and popping ever since then. And
what's the name of your trucking business so the people can know?
Executive Mobile Services.
Okay.
Executive Mobile Services. And I chose that because God said that we are a mobile. He told me that we are a mobile family. Family is a mobile family. And I chose that name, Executive Mobile Services, and always to remember that everything that God does to me in my life is about mobility. I'm never stuck. I'm never in one place. I'm never just a stagnant person. I'm always moving because the voice of the Lord walks. If you remember anything about when God talked to man, that was the imperfection in the garden, the way it should be. It was a voice that walks. And so I constantly keep that in my mind, that God is a voice that walks. Don't ever get too complacent. Don't ever get too comfortable, but don't ever think you stuck either. Don't ever think you can't have more. Don't ever think it ain't more to this life.
Yeah.
Keep going till you till the blood runs blue in your vein. Keep moving. You understand what I'm saying? And it's in that movement that keeps you safe. And so we began to move, and I began to I had to come back and begin to share that with the people who were incarcerated, because before I got out, interestingly enough, I had a dream that a part of my wealth was connected to the prison system. And so I said, Lord, I gotta continue to do this. And so when the door opened for me to do it, and it's amazing because someone who was locked up with me is now a chaplain at the same unit. He was my roommate. He's now the chaplain at the Atlanta Transitional Center. And so God used that connection in order to get me back in there, me and another brother named Ramonde Daniels, and we're going in there ministering now. The same things that I'm here saying. So, man, God has been good. God is real, and he's no respecter of persons, you know. So I'm just hoping that I've shared something that, you know what I mean, that could make people just
what resonated with me. And I talk to the guys when I go in there and do soft skills training, and we talk about conflict resolution and healthy relationships. And in healthy relationship, I say, even if your mama trying to knock you off your square, you got to feed up with a long-handled spoon. You know, said that, I had that resonate with me, because when I was going through grad school, it was tough, man. And you talk about a high school dropout, 9th grade, and I done went to school for 6 straight years, and my mother just became bitter. She would just like, you need to work 2-3 jobs. You need to, and if I would have fed into that, knowing that God had a higher purpose for me, you know, and not that she a bad lady, but I would have fed into her negativity. Because remember the workers of iniquity, Satan, he'll use anybody. He don't care who he use to try to knock you off your square. You know, he'll use your mama, brother, sister, the members of your own household will become your enemy. Just for you, because something that you got is generational. Exactly. So that's what I hear you speaking. And I also heard you touch on making mistakes.
I didn't hear that last part.
In the earlier segment, I heard you talk about making mistakes, and what came to my mind was, though we may stumble, we will not be utterly cast down, for he will uphold you with his hand. And when because you know, a lot of cats, when they got the first they talk job. So I emphasize them, no, you got gifts and talent. You can create your own opportunities.
You can get out there and wash cars and make more than the average person per hour. One of the things that I have right here, I'm actually in my garage, and I wish I could just turn my camera around and show you all the different equipment that I have in my garage, because it's different things that I can utilize, because you're not just one thing. David wasn't just a king. David was also the greatest shepherd ever known. When he was a shepherd, he slayed a lion and a bear. And he also was the greatest musician. When he was a musician, he was so good that he sung an evil spirit of us all. And he also was an architect. He made one of the 7 wonders of the world, that the temple. And so you're not just one thing. You're not just stuck in this box. There are many things you can do. There are many avenues you can explore. You can have every tree that grows from the garden, except the one of knowledge of good and evil. And that's the one of separation from God. But every other tree you eat from, you can have it. And so that's an important thing to realize, that your options are not limited. Your options are not limited. God taught me like he taught MacGyver. When I was in prison and I was learning about the Lord, he always taught me through MacGyver. You have to get industrious. You have to go and know how to get 5 smooth stones and defeat giants. You have to know how to get the mouth of a donkey and defeat 1,000 men. You have to know how to do these things. You have to know how to get industrious in your situation. That's one of the biggest blessings to me. I don't know if it's a fruit of the spirit under a different name, but one of the biggest fruits of the spirit in my life has been industriousness. You have to be able to look where people see dire situations, and you have to be able to look and see opportunity. Because the key thing about a man, if I could just press in one point, is that when God made man, he placed that man in a garden. But you know what the Bible says? That it was a plant. He planted a garden and placed a man in a planted garden. Now I always ask people, what does a planted garden look like? A planted garden looks like mud. A planted garden looks like BS, because you use dung to fertilize a garden. A planted garden looks like ash, because you take burnt things, you take ash. Ash is one of the biggest fertilizers of a garden. So it's the burnt things, it's the dung, it's the BS situations, it's the dirt, it's the mud that fertilizes a garden. And if you can begin to look at this and begin to plant in that situation, then you will be just like God, because God planted in that exact, and he put a man, he planted in that exact situation, and the things grew up around him because God planted it first and then he put him in there. And so as a man, we understand process. Even your rappers will tell you, I get it out the mud. And so you got to know how to plant in your gardens. You got to know how to plant right there where you at with what you got. You got something in you. It's something that you can do. It's something that you have that's of value, that's important, that you can utilize. And that not only can you use, and not only is it one thing, it's multiple things, because in a garden is not a farm. And a farm, you might just get some corn. But in a garden, you got some lilies growing over here and some scoopernons growing over here, and you got some mangoes over here, and you got some flowers just chilling right here, and you got some trees. It's all that in the garden. That's why I say you got options. You got to see yourself as somebody with some options. You know what I mean? And when you believe like that, the world can't stop you. The world can't stop you. The only thing they could do is kill you. That's what I always say. You can't do nothing to me but kill me.
Well, you don't die dead anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, you say you had a poem, Brother Savage. What about that poem before you speak to your 3 audiences? You said something about you had a poem that you want to share?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. I appreciate this opportunity. This is a poem that I wrote. I know Father's Day is coming up, and it's about my father. It's one of the things that God gave me right before I left the halfway house. It's called We Win, Dad.
We win.
It goes, we win, Dad. You win through me. I am the man you knew you could be. Although you don't know me, I remain your son. See, the cells and the souls we carry are one. There were times I resented you. Why didn't you stay? Didn't you love me? Then why did you stray? But when I became a man, I must honestly say there were times when I too wanted to just run away. But part of you stayed and could not run. And though it was rough, he has overcome. So we win, Dad. You win through me. For I am the man you knew you could be. This is not to discredit you. No attempt to defame. For I carry your DNA inside my vein. I too know the paradox created by love, being made in God's image, yet formed from the dust. But God knows the future. So, Dad, could it be that many of the prayers you prayed were answered in me? Maybe you just passed the torch, or handed the baton, or tagged my hand as I entered the ring and fought on, and wrestled the adversities of true fatherhood, the fears of commitment, opposed to just laying wood. See, I battled these with you from inside of your loins. Through pain and through gain, we are mortally joined. So we win, Dad. You win through me. Think of it as a second round victory. Your dream lives on. Your legacy stands. The child you created has grown to a man, and though he's unique in his own special way, he's reminiscent of you from what his mama say. That means you was a winner. Whether you knew, and your soul had wings, whether you flew it or not. And God made you a king, whether you blew it or not, and you could still overcome, whether you do it or not. but I could take no credit for being who I am. It was our own Heavenly Father through the blood of the Lamb who taught me the power of the man he's designed, whom he has created and he has defined. And when my life's at its summit, for this I pray, that I may look into my child's eyes and say, we win, child. I win through you. For you do the things that I dream to do. Like God giving the temple blueprint to King David, you're giving his son Solomon the wisdom to raise it. As I build the house, may you make it a home. As I construct the castle, may you sit on this throne. May you take my experiences, my joys, and my pain. May they teach you and give you the wisdom to reign. If these things I'm able to say in the end, then our labor's not in vain. We win, Dad. We win.
Yes, sir. Man, that's powerful, brother. That man, that powerful. And man, I tell you, man, this has been a pleasure because hearing your testimony, you just said it in your poem. That's the only way that we can, this station and a lot of other stations and this podcast is to change the narrative.
Yes, sir.
And it's through people who it's a focus on recidivism, but I always talk about the focus should be on successful reintegration. And you are a success story, my brother. And the only way that we go overcome is through the blood of the Lamb and through the word of our testimony.
Yes, sir.
So as we land this plane, I want you to tell the people you got three audiences. One is people that are incarcerated. One is people who are been released that are out there trying to make a way out of no way. They're trying to find a way out of no way. And then we got stakeholders and people with the resources, people who don't believe that people like me and you are out here doing such phenomenal things that we're not going back to prison. We out here working, but they still focus on this narrative. Or they have a resource, don't know what to do with it. Lace them with some game, bro.
To my people who are incarcerated, Jesus told the church, he said, you'll be incarcerated 10 days. I don't know how long you're going to be incarcerated, but I do know that Jesus said he got dictates and control over that situation, that time is in his hand. That's what I know about you. I know that you facing time right now, but he's the ruler, he's the creator, he's the master of all time. So give that time to him and he'll get that time back. I'm a witness. I've seen him give that time back. And regardless, this time here is short. Make sure you do what you're supposed to do with your time. And your time ain't just sitting there doing you. There's one king, one God. His name ain't Chronos. His name is the Father. Make sure you give that time to him. Make sure you spend time with the Lord. To my people who out, I encourage you to find brothers who like-minded. Iron sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron. You got to stay sharp out here. There are a lot of things that are coming out here trying to identify you, trying to tell you who you are. You are ex-felon. You a criminal. You always going to be a criminal. Many things are going to try to label you, and worse, they're going to try to number you. But I'm here to tell you that you got a name that no man knows save him that receives it. You have a name. You have an identity. It's powerful. It's yours. It's yours alone. And not only that, but God made you a man and brought every living thing to you to see what you would name it. You have the power to name names. You can call your situation good. Let the weak say, I am strong. Let the sick say, I am well. Start talking to your situation. Start talking to it like I'm talking now with a little bit of bop. Start talking to it and start screaming at it. Speak to that mountain. When that tree telling you, I ain't give you no food, curse that tree. Ain't nothing gonna grow from you. It's my way or it's no way. I'm with God now. I got some rights right about now. You need to learn how to pop. And finally, for my people who have the resources, Jesus said one thing. There's only two people in this world, you and me. Regardless of what anybody looks like, regardless of what they sound like, smell like, regardless of your relation to that person, there's only two people in this world. You never see any other person but you and me. And he's going to say one day, I was in prison. I was sick. I didn't have no food. Did you visit him? Did you feed him? Did you clothe him? You ain't going to be able to tell him how he act. I know they acted bad if they was in prison. You ain't going to be able to tell them they made some bad decisions. They probably did make some bad decisions, broke. You ain't gonna be able to tell them they wasn't a fool. They probably was a fool. They was running somewhere butt naked. He gonna say, I know, but that was me. What did you do with me? It's only two people in this world, you and God. That's it. Everybody else is a figment of your imagination. In fact, the Bible says that you better be careful to entertain strangers, knowing that you may be entertaining angels. You don't know who that person is in front of you. It ain't but two people in this world, you and God. And at the end of the day, when everything is finished, he's going to say, either come, welcome, or depart. For I was sick and in prison, and you ain't visit me. That's all I got, man.
Man, how do people can find you?
My name is Dorsey Savage. You can reach me at DorseySavage@yahoo.com. I'm Dorsey on TikTok. Actually, I started ministering some words on TikTok. So I'm Dorsey Savage on TikTok. If you're looking for me there, you can reach me at 615-987-1273. I usually don't throw my phone number out there like that, but I just feel okay. Go ahead and call me if you want to call me. You need to talk. 615-987-1273. That's my phone number. But yeah, man, I'm here. I'm a real person. I'll answer the phone and be like, "What's happening?" Now, don't call me for no garbage. Like, my time is precious too. I love my kids, love my family. But if you got a concern, I'm here. I'm not gonna say that I didn't answer when they called. All right.
Man, it was a pleasure, man.
Yes,
and we're going to continue to chop it up, man, and continue to be that iron that sharpens each other so that one man sharpens another one. So we can stay sharp and we can continue to cut through and dismantle this system that they try to say is broken, but it's not broken. It's working the way it was designed to work. And we have been commissioned to dismantle it and break it down and build it back up again.
We shake the prison. Everybody chains got to fall off. Everybody.
For sure. So Ain't the Ink, we out. Peace and blessings be upon you. We'll see you next Friday.
Yes, sir.